I'm excited for today. Tracy uh, is just a phenomenal person, great person to work with. Uh, Pretty dark sense of humor, which I like. But Tracy's classes at UGA are consistently packed. Students just love her. Again, Dr. Tracy Rackensberger is joining us today to talk about teleworking. We're going to keep it interactive. I think, Trace, that we have our first poll that Joseph is going to launch. So make sure you participate. Which choice best describes you? These are anonymous, so you don't have to worry about anything. All right. There, we're getting it. We got almost 50% voted. Don't be a naysayer. Come on, vote. Not gonna hurt you. All right, we're getting there. Keep voting. Let's at least get to 80%. Which choice best describes you? Job seeker, provider, staff, person with disabilities, family member, VR counselor, employer. All right, we've hit 80%. Joseph, let's give it another 10 seconds here. I always want to see the 100% on a poll, but we never get them. I don't know. You can't do that for me, people? You can't deliver a little happiness? All right, well, let's stop the pain. We want to share the polling. All right. So 60% of us provider staff. Got one lonely employer on here. One lonely employer, one lonely job seeker. Let's match those two up. So welcome everybody. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tracy. Tracy has created an interactive presentation today. So as always, thank you, Karen Williams. You're an employment specialist. Thank you. Joseph has also put up the webinars that you can download so you can have it and send it out to folks. So thank you, Tracy. We're glad to have you. We want to hear from you.
Oh.
Did we get the poll out of the way? Okay, all right.
I do it. Oh.
Tracy, are you wanting us to launch that next poll?
Today, I will be talking about the topic of expanding opportunities through telework for the COVID era and beyond. Again, my name is Dr. Tracy Rackensperger. I am a public service faculty member at the Institute on Human Development and Disability, University of Georgia. I have over 20 years professional experience working with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I, myself, have developmental disabilities. There is a video trailer about me you can view on your own time. It's on our Advancing Employment website. Now, since I use a device to speak, this webinar will get boring unless you participate. This is an interactive webinar. Participants will be asked to actively share their thoughts throughout the hour. First, I want to go over what I hope you will learn from this webinar today. Stick with me this whole hour, and you will be able to do the following. You will be able to define the term telework and explain models of teleworking. You will be able to identify the advantages and disadvantages of teleworking for people with disabilities. You will be able to describe the digital divide and ways to address it. Also, you will be able to figure out ways to support people in teleworking situations. Finally, you will be able to explore how teleworking has been affected by COVID and future opportunities telework might offer. So I would like to start by asking you to type in the chat. What is your concept of telework? Just type your answer to that question in the chat. Joseph or Doug will read your answers out loud.
Okay, let's hear from you. You don't want to disappoint Dr. Rackensperger. All right, here we go. I can't even keep up with them. So let me try. Liana Stone, working in a virtual environment. Toy says working from home via computer devices. Karen Lynn Domine, working somewhere other than traditional assigned office. Katrina, working remotely, typically at home. Lynn Smith, using technology to work in remote locations. Sharon, job from home using technology. Our friend Grant Jerkins, working from a remote location via phone or computer. Flexibility. Stephanie's from Virginia. Hey, Stephanie. And Julianne, using tech to do work tasks in another environment. And there are a bunch more. Working remotely, fulfilling same job duties as in the office. That's Debbie Letterman. So a lot of the same ones there. Yes to all the above, says Sarah DeWeaver. Let me check a couple. Wow, there are 13 new ones. I shouldn't have opened my mouth, Tracy. I like what Topeka Hatton says. She says, being able to reach a lot of people at once that live in different states. That's a great way to say it. And I'll just end with Karen Williams here. Lots of video training, job development from somewhere other than the office. There you go, Tracy.
Joseph or Doug will read your answers out loud. The U.S. Office of Personnel Management in 2021 states telework is a work arrangement that allows an employee to perform work during any part of regular, paid hours at an approved alternative work site. They additionally say, in practice, telework is a work arrangement that allows an employee to perform work during any part of regular, paid hours at an approved alternative work site. This definition of telework includes what is generally referred to as remote work but does not include any part of work done while on official travel or mobile work. It also encapsulates telecommuting. Telecommuting, also called remote working, working from home, mobile work, remote job, work from anywhere, and flexible workplace, is a work arrangement in which employees do not commute or travel to a central place of work, such as an office building, warehouse, or store. However, an expanded view is telework can be work performed at any time and at any off-site location approved by the employer. For example, gig workers can be teleworkers. Instead of a traditional, in-office, full-time job with a single company, gig workers work as short-term, temporary, or independent contractors for one or a variety of employers. As long as they don't go into offices, I consider them teleworkers. Telework offers the flexibility to work from anywhere, anytime. Working remotely lets us get the job done in unforeseen circumstances, like a global pandemic, and unconventional places. There are many models of telework. Home is by far the most common non-office work location, but working from other people's homes, cafes, libraries, vehicles, and combinations of multiple locations are also utilized by people. Our first webinar speaker this year spoke from a Starbucks because his Wi-Fi was out. I know people who work from parks during COVID. I have answered emails while in my van before. I wasn't driving, I swear. Also, if employers agree, people can work different hours. The Office of Personnel Management and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission support flexible work arrangements as reasonable accommodations for individuals with disabilities. Changing a regular work schedule or establishing a flexible leave policy may be a reasonable accommodation unless it would cause an undue hardship. Flexibility can remove barriers to employment and allow employees with disabilities to attend medical appointments, receive treatment, deal with transportation issues, etc., and still meet performance expectations. People may do some combination of working remotely and from an office, or they may work strictly from home. Some people telework full-time, while others may work remotely for part of the week and go into the office. Others may just occasionally enter the office to attend meetings in person and touch base with their bosses. I refer to COVID as the following. COVID is like your house guest that is staying entirely too long and won't leave. The trouble is you can't leave your house. Before COVID was our uninvited house guest, 17% of American employees worked from home 5 days or more per week. The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated the remote working trend, as quarantines and lockdowns made commuting and working in an office close to impossible for millions. Most people who worked from home were Caucasian with higher incomes. They typically perform professional, desk, managerial, or administrative work. Before COVID, 7% of employees with disabilities were regularly working from home. Using home as a reasonable accommodation for the Americans with Disabilities Act, 463,000 employees with disabilities regularly work from home. During COVID, 44% of American employees worked from home 5 days or more per week. Unfortunately, most teleworkers are still white, highly educated with good incomes. The Economic Policy Institute reports less than 1 in 5 Black workers and roughly 1 in 6 Latino workers are able to work from home. 1 million people with disabilities have lost their jobs during the pandemic. Most work in low-paying service industries where teleworking is not seen as an option. People with disabilities are often numerically underrepresented in professional occupations. We still place a lot of people with disabilities in food service, janitorial work, or horticulture. Forbes magazine explains these jobs using F words: food, fill, fetching, folding, filing, flower, festive, and friendly. My colleague David McNaughton and his colleagues from Penn State University and I did a study about telework and people with complex communication needs. This was done as part of the AAC-RERC. The AAC-RERC conducts a comprehensive program of research, development, training, and dissemination activities that address the NIDER priorities and seek to improve technologies for individuals who rely on augmentative and alternative communication technologies. The mission of the AAC-RERC is to assist people who rely on augmentative and alternative communication to achieve their goals by advancing and promoting AAC technologies and supporting the individuals who use, manufacture, and recommend them. Although our focus was on people with complex communication needs, our findings probably relate to people with other disabilities as well. We found people cited the following as advantages of telework. People stated the elimination of travel and flexible work schedules as key strengths of telework. Many of the participants described the positive impact of telework on their work efficiency. The elimination of travel time made many more hours available in the day for employment activities. Individuals could schedule their work in ways that allowed them to accommodate for their physical disability. Individuals also cited control of their own work schedule. They were better able to manage medical appointments, shopping, and other activities of daily living. Finally, many of the participants, the communication strategies associated with telework, email, instant messaging, were often the preferred communication techniques of the person with complex communication needs. Although all of the people in our study reported that telework had many benefits, they also discussed the negative impacts associated with telework. 3 sub-themes related to negative impacts were identified: feelings of isolation, technical and equipment problems, and the difficulty in separating home and work environments. Someone provided information on the technology and equipment challenges of working from home. For this individual, the slow connection speed of his home internet provider reduced his productivity. However, many said working independently from home provided access to specialized computer technology and workstations. People described the challenge of maintaining a focus on work activities while surrounded by the distractions of home. While in graduate school, I worked for Penn State University, Temple University, and a California-based nonprofit, all while living with my parents in Florida. I mainly mentored people, conducted online focus groups, and wrote articles. With my current job, sometimes I work from home when I had deadlines. I have been working from home since March 2020. I am a person who has cerebral palsy who cannot cough as hard as other people and has almost died of pneumonia once. I requested an accommodation. At the university, individuals who are younger than age 65 may provide documentation from a healthcare provider that their age is a determining factor for risk that should prevent them from working on campus as Schedule. Requests from faculty and staff for an accommodation due to COVID was handled through the university's existing Americans with Disabilities Act accommodations process. I love working from home. The benefits for me to work from home have been the following. At home, I have 2 monitors, my adaptive keyboard, and communication device. To be fair, I have the same setup at work, but it's nice to have it at home too. My work productivity has increased. I am single, so there's number 1 except my dog to distract me. Finally, although we are all tired of Zoom, it has helped me thrive. I'm really comfortable using the chat feature and it has helped me be more participatory in meetings. Although I do miss the social interaction, I also really like working from home. Conducting trainings via Zoom requires less personal support. I have found using text-to-speech software on my computer is a great way to do presentations. Social isolation is the biggest challenge. Since August, I have been swimming weekly and have taken a few socially distanced trips. I talk and play with my dog Charlie. He is a silly boy. I chat via Messenger with family and friends, sometimes video chat with them. Being social at a distance. Also, Charlie loves to interrupt Zoom meetings and unplug the Wi-Fi. He does rule the house and, despite trying to blockade the plugs, he does seem to still unplug the Wi-Fi to get attention. Luckily, I have understanding co-workers and access to my mobile hotspot. We all know how it feels to be socially isolated. But there are ways to combat social isolation, regardless of COVID. People can participate in recreational activities. They can join community groups. They can video chat and use social media. So moving on, I want you to take a poll. For individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities you support, what percentage have regular access to these items? Joseph is going to pull up my poll for me. Please indicate the closest percentage that individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities you support have regular access to each item. Joseph or Doug will say out loud the results of the poll.
All right, let's get to voting. Remember, this is anonymous. Can people see the poll? There we go. Now we got 1 person voting. Okay, now we're going. Thank you, thank you. Let's get up to 80%. Get in there. Oh, Pam says it won't let you submit. Okay, we'll just type it in the chat, Pam. So again, number 1, for folks with the labels of intellectual and developmental disabilities that you know, just ballparking the percentage that have regular access to the computer. And then the second question is Microsoft Office. Ah, thank you, Grant and Lynn. You have to scroll down. I wouldn't have thought of scrolling. That's the problem. Internet is number 3, 4 is smartphone or tablet, and 5 is webcam. As Tracy said, she's done research in this area, and of course with lived experience as an expert on this as well. And I just think it's so important So let's get a few more votes in here. We're at 72%, and then we'll stop the pain. Few more. Come on.
Oh. Oh. Good.
Right. We just won 80%. Is that too much to ask? Okay. Thank you, Julianne. Julianne? Is it Julianne? Okay. I never get that right. Okay. We got you. All right. Well, they're not going to do it for us. So let's go ahead and end that poll, share it. Okay. So Trace, it looks like 50 to 74%. That's the answer for the percentage. And then let's see. Same for Microsoft Office. Most people have internet, it looks like 75% or more. And I think it's kind of what you'd think with the smartphone and tablet, kind of stays with that percentage, although the webcam doesn't look like as many people have that access.
Joseph or Doug will say out loud the results of the poll. So I would like you to type in the chat. What prevents individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities regular access to these things? Just type your answer to that question in the chat. Joseph or Doug will read your answers out loud.
Looks like we're getting a lot of finances. Grant Jerkins just put in the $, money, lack of training, lack of funds and transportation. Terrell says proximity. Katrina Spooner says lack of support to learn how to use those. Pam also says money, accessibility. Debbie says the expense of these items. Yeah, I got to be honest. I was taken back when we started out of COVID and still working with job seekers in different states that didn't have access, Tracy. And these are people who have waivers in the tens of thousands of dollars per year, and still didn't have access to that kind of technology. So lack of advocacy, says Jackson. Stephanie says opportunities. So it sounds like it's a mixture of finances and then just maybe how people also view, particularly folks who are both living in group homes and going to day programs, where people just don't think it's important, I guess, right?
I'm going to cover that.
Great.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Tracy, I'll just, while you're doing that, I'll just read a couple more. Sarah says rural areas and accessibility along with expenses. Grant says there's a massive shortage of webcams and headsets.
Americans with disabilities are less than half as likely as their non-disabled counterparts to own a computer.
Wow.
And they are about 1/4 as likely to use the internet. More recently, research has suggested the digital divide still exists due to insufficient financial resources or skills and tools which would enable to fully benefit from internet access. This low accessibility to internet resources may itself be another factor limiting its use by people with disabilities. There are many definitions of assistive technology. Section 508 of the Rehab Act of 1973 defines assistive technology as any item, piece of equipment, or system, whether acquired commercially, modified, or customized, that is commonly used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of individuals with disabilities. However, this definition refers to only IT that is mass-produced and specially made for people with disabilities. My personal definition of IT is any object helping a person with a disability complete a task. Without this item, the person would either have great difficulty with or be unable to complete the task. Assistive technology assists with physical access, cognitive and intellectual disabilities, literacy skills, and sensory disabilities. For more information, visit our website for resources. Another thing is, people need to shift their mindset. People should expect that I text. They should expect I have a smartphone or a tablet. I should not be the exception, but in most cases, I am. People having high expectations of me, as well as staying person-centered, not system-centered. And my using natural generic supports as much as possible were and continue to be three of the most important things that shaped my life. My family had high expectations of me from the beginning and used natural generic supports as much as possible. I live on my own and have support people come throughout the day to assist me with activities of daily living. I am a public service faculty member at the University of Georgia. The norm for people without disabilities should be the norm for people with disabilities. I don't hold much faith in humanity. I am afraid we will default back to our old ways of doing things. However, look at all the jobs that can be done remotely. Please prove me wrong. Thank you for your time. Now, let's open it up to questions.
So I've put Tracy, the link to your video on the Advancing Employment website twice. Also, I just want to share this. Tracy is, she's a water skier, a snow skier, a skydiver, rock climb. I mean, she does it all, hikes all the time. Tracy and I had the great pleasure of working together about a decade ago on a small ADA project for the city of Atlanta. We had a lot of fun doing that. She's great at, as you can tell, giving both lived experience and then sharing research, which, you know, you don't get both of those all the time. So hit the web link there in the chat for Tracy. If you have questions as well that you'd like to email Tracy, you can do that as well. Tracy, I'll try to put your email and mine, or Joseph, if you can, in the chat. Tracy, this question that came to me, and I think it's connected to telework as a reasonable accommodation. And I think most of us get that, but someone asked from the ACRE course, what about reasonable accommodation as an ideal condition of employment? I think what they mean there is that in customization, thank you, Joseph. In customization, we're negotiating individual ideal conditions of employment. And I'm going to take the question, and then Tracy, or anybody else, if you want to add. I've certainly worked with employers on behalf of a job seeker to, prior to COVID, negotiate some hours from home as part of the customization. As Tracy's black humor came out there when she said she doesn't have much faith in humanity. So I probably have too much faith, but I've seen employers do things that if it improves productivity, if it helps solve a problem, employers are willing to negotiate and I think make reasonable accommodations. But that kind of takes trust, right? If I try to pitch reasonable accommodation right off the bat, or that I'm going to change everything about a job position, that's not as firm footing to build trust first, right? And to make sure that you're engaging around a specific job seeker. So yes, I've seen reasonable accommodation in terms of telework straight up, and then I've seen it as part of a negotiated, customized employment position. Tracy, let me give one more example.
Yes.
We had a person that we were working with who was just brilliant, a genius in electronics and fixing electronics and computers, and just, I mean, skill above skills, just fantastic. But his customer service was terrible. I mean, just awful. Because he just didn't read cues as well. He just struggled with, part of that interaction. For that person, it wasn't a telework, but it was trying to customize some work that may not be connected to answering phones or participating in customer service situations. Someone else did that. And part of that was he fixed electronics and computers from his home as well. Okay, other questions for Tracy on the topic of telework?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't catch that, Tracy.
Can you keep time? Keep time. Can you keep time?
Can I keep?
Time.
Okay. Yeah, are you asking me to keep talking?
Yes.
Okay. I've never had you ask me to keep talking. You've told me to stop talking.
I had to hit you shit on this.
Okay, gotcha. Will do. Joseph has put the survey in there. Thank you, Debbie. As well as his email. Joseph, can you cut and paste Tracy's email so that folks have questions about teleworking? By the way, Tracy and I haven't talked about this, but we certainly spend time picking Tracy's brain and asking her questions about all of this telework and reasonable accommodations. So she is at your disposal, as well as Joseph and I. If you're engaging an employer, if you're working on some of that. Thank you, Julianne. I bet I'm not Julia Ann. No, dang it. Okay. Getting some love in the chat, Tracy. Yeah, right. Grant is noticing that your device pronounces COVID. That is a better pronunciation. Sounds kind of British, says Grant. There's Tracy's email as well. There was a question earlier if we would be sending out the PowerPoint, and of course we will be doing that. And please hit the survey up there at 242 that Joseph put in.
Have not.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Sarah.
Sky.
Tracy will be glad that you have filled out the survey, Debbie. No one will do it for us.
Dives. Hit.
No, Jeff, don't stop during the survey. And I'll be doing the jokes. May, the survey is up, I think at 2:42. If you scroll up in your chat, you should be able to see the link. I think at 2:42.
But my.
Thank you, Debbie. Debbie's reposted it down there. She beat you to it, Joseph.
Friends. Ten.
As Tracy continues to compose, she'll let us know when she's going to hit the button. Again, next Tuesday, please join us for the visual resumes. We'll be giving away 2 opportunities to get to work with Carl King.
9. 2. Take.
Thank you, Stephanie Potts.
I have not skydives touch, but my friends in Myrtle want to take me.
So I give you too much credit on the skydiving. Okay. Well, it's only a matter of time. Only a matter of time. Thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Jackson. Yes, that is the 6th, Miss Hunter. I'm going to quit botching your first name. If you scroll up, Joseph put it in there right in the beginning. The Advancing Employment Webinars, Part 2 of Spring 2021. So we'd love for you to join us. We'll just do the traditional just drawing from the hat to see. Thank you, May, Eric, Gwen, Tracy. You're getting plenty of surveys completed.
For questions.
Okay, any other questions for Tracy? You can type them in. You can email any of us after the presentation as well. Joseph has put the webinars back there in the chat. Again, these are free, so send them out. I think, Tracy, we can go up to 300 folks on a Zoom. So make sure you plan for April. We'd love to have you. Gwen says, will that be sent out when the presentation is sent to us? I wasn't able to open the first link with Part 2 info. Yes.
Yes.
So we'll send those out definitely. And Joseph and Tracy regularly email the folks who have gone through ACRE, our GVRA partners, the trade organizations for providers. So that's Gates and the CSB Association. Thank you, Sharon DeMille. Pamela Campbell says, awesome presentation, Tracy. Sarah says, thank you all so much. You're very welcome. Tracy, any parting words?
Yum. Any. Questions? Any questions?
You just answered all their questions, Tracy. All right, Dr. Rackensberger, I want to thank you, Tracy, for not just this presentation, but all of your work at IHDD. We appreciate it. You'll be hearing from us in an email. If there's nothing else, shall we Shall we call it finished, Tracy?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Tracy. Thanks, everybody. We'll stay on a little bit as we're waving goodbye. That's the way we do it. Sometimes we end up having some casual conversations this way. Thank you, Maria. Thank you. You're welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Shannon. Toy, it's great to hear from you. Bye, Lynn Smith.
Body.
Way to go, Pam. Thank you, Pam. Getting some clapping there, Tracy.
Here.
All right, we're going to keep waving. Make it uncomfortable. Thank you, Albert. Tracy, Albert Ward says, great job.
Anybody on here from Hawk?
Is anybody on from what? I don't know. Topeka, are you still on? Yeah, I'm staying out of trouble. I wasn't supposed to read that out loud, was I, Topeka? Well, since we're a smaller group, Eddie, any other questions?
I had one.
Let's hear from you, Toy.
Okay, I wanted to know whether or not is there some type of database or something that exists to help individuals with disabilities find work, telework?
Oh, it's a great question.
Okay.
That I don't know the answer to.
Okay.
But I bet Tracy has a few tips for us. That's a great question.
I was. I don't think so.
Okay.
But there was a federal
Thank you, Wendy.
government. I don't think so, but there was a federal government website.
Okay. Let's see, Tracy, let's see if ODEP has any resources too. I've just never really thought about that question, Toy. I think it's a real good one. And I wonder, go ahead.
Was it virtual, Tracy, Doc, was it virtual ticket to work? Is that what it was? Because I've heard of virtual ticket to work.
I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
But I think it's something great for us to kind of think through. I mean, that would be a wonderful resource. Yeah, I love it. Very good. Very good. Well, here are the winners that are still on. The winners are still on the webinar. All right. Thank you all so much. Join us next week. See if you can win a chance to work with Carl King on a visual resume. Thank you, Dr. Ackensberger. I'm going to hang up now.
Thank you.
Hang up. I sound so old. I'm going to leave the Zoom.
Bye.